Everybody, thank you for tuning in for part two today of the podcast, day 32, October 5th. And we're finishing up on cruelty because today, for the GOP, the cruelty is the point. And once again, let's start with a little homage to Rachel with a quick story. Timothy McVeigh, the domestic terrorist, was responsible for the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing. If you're too young for that, it was awful, awful. And the picture I'm showing on video is the one that everybody who's listening knows. It's the firefighter holding that poor baby, that baby that's just draped in its arms because the child care center was just inside the building in Oklahoma. McVeigh was drawn to the far right anti-government ideology throughout the 1980s and early 1990s. Okay, it's really important that it's the far right anti-government. So this is Ruby Ridge, David Koresh, some of that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's where it started in that we don't need to pay no stinking taxes. We don't need to listen to no stinking feds, that kind of thing that was going on. Yeah, it was that hot mix. And again, if you're younger, you'd have to go back and read about it. There's actually movies though. You could watch movies. Because we can all watch movies, right? Let's see. So this ideology was prominent because through the influence and media, the French publications, it stoked the anger and fear of the US government. This is before the internet's really going, guys. We've got email and you could dial up AOL. Can't do it. And be in those chat rooms and have a virtual margarita. But this is really at the beginning. 1995, I mean, his access to communications was pretty much old school. Telephones, pagers. I mean, cell phones were brand new because I worked for a company and they were brand new. So this was really before all that. So he did this old school. But the problem is we still had media and French publications that stoked the anger and fear about the US government. That's who those guys were watching. Ruby Ridge, all those people. This exposure to militia movements and propaganda reinforced his belief that violence was necessary to defend, air quotes, everybody, italics in my words, real Americans from government overreach. In interviews after his arrest, McVeigh spoke of being groomed by the media he consumed. I love the word groomed. It's so interesting because usually in the old days, it would just be the propaganda persuaded you, but now we say groomed. And I really feel like groomed is a very specific word for, sexual predators groom. And they prepare you for what's coming. But I feel like Timothy McVeigh, I'm not sure groomed is the right word. We can debate that separately. It's just interesting that that's the word he chose because it implies that he was powerless. I think that's the part I don't like. But he was a kid. I mean, he wasn't a total kid, but he was still young. I would bet his frontal cortex wasn't done all the way, wasn't fully baked. I don't know if he was 24. We'll find out maybe. But the idea is that he said he was being groomed by the media he consumed, from conspiracy theories to extreme rhetoric, which escalated his paranoia and a sense of victimhood. Now, that I do believe. I do believe if you start hearing the same messages all the time, Trump's trying to do that so hard right now. You're afraid they're coming for you. They're going to live in your home. There was a MAGA yesterday on a video clip saying the immigrants were going to live in her home. And the interviewer said, I don't understand. She said, well, Trump has said they're coming to live in my home. And he said, well, how's that going to work? And she goes, I don't know. I guess they just move in and just take a bedroom. Like, sorry. She's had to actually figure out in her head that that's happening, but she can't even imagine how it might happen. That's how incredulous. Oh, I can't use that word with these stupid Invisalign things. That's how incredible the story is. She believes Trump that an illegal immigrant is going to come live in her house, an immigrant that hasn't been signed in. I don't know. They sign a book. And she thinks they're going to come live in her house. And she believes that, but her brain can't begin to understand how it might work. That's when you know it's bullshit. I don't know what else to say. It's a lie. It's a lie. It's a lie. Okay. Sorry. It's just crazy to me how folks will buy this stuff. So he became paranoid in a sense of victimhood, so much like MAGAs when you hear them interviewed at the rallies. The case illustrates how dangerous political grooming can be when individuals are exposed to constant fear and division. Cruelty continues to be a deliberate political strategy today, utilized by figures like Trump, Vance, and others to manipulate emotions, appeal to their base, and undermine our values, democratic values. The psychological appeal of cruelty is deeply connected to group identity, fear, and a sense of power, right? Trump, loyal. He wants that group identity. He builds that group identity. You're like me. We don't tolerate them. We are good. I'm here to protect us. Those people are woke. Kamala Harris is mentally ill. Like, that's how hard he goes. He just lies like crazy to make sure that we have this whole thing of group identity, fear, and then they feel a sense of power because Trump's a good bullshitter, right? So modern media platforms play a critical role in amplifying those dangerous dynamics. So for sure, there is an appeal to cruelty in politics and its threat to democracy. And at its core, the cruelty is appealing to those who feel disenfranchised and powerless. That's not the women who can't get abortions. I know they feel disenfranchised and powerless, but they aren't forming a coup. So I'm just saying there's ways to handle these problems. So he's trying to get everybody upset because you're disenfranchised and powerless. You poor white maggots have nothing. That sounds funny. And you have no power. You have no agency. You can't make anything happen. And yet they can. They absolutely can. But he's convinced them that they can't. Political figures tap into deep emotions like fear, anger, and resentment by positioning cruelty as a form of strength. When individuals feel threatened by social or demographic changes, they defend their life against those changes. And so this fosters authoritarianism. So here's the connection now. We talked yesterday about how fear basically confuses you and makes you go very feral, right? It just brings you down to your base level, fight or flight, freeze. We've got to always remember the fight, flight, or freeze, because freeze is often a response. You just don't know what to do. So when the dynamic fosters this authoritarianism, then when leaders like Trump break the norms, I don't know, like a coup on January 6th, and embrace cruelty to project control and order, democratic principles are eroded. I don't know, like the peaceful transfer of power. I can't imagine, but there it goes. Many MAGA supporters are drawn to the us versus them dynamics, where outsiders, immigrants, or marginalized groups are seen as threats, right? Because that means the maggots are the good people and the others are the bad. So they see it very, very polarized like that. It's just one extreme or the other. And for those individuals, cruelty isn't viewed as a moral failing, but as necessary. Trump has to be like this to protect us. If we aren't nasty, vile, and ugly, the people that we say are going to get us might get us. See how that works? Trump, for example, frames cruelty as strength, casting himself as the only figure willing to take on the extreme measures to protect his followers from perceived enemies, right? Sorry, it just gets me so angry. The dynamic undermines democracy, creating divisions instead of encouraging unity and dialogue, key components for a healthy democratic system. So in the old days, we used to talk about disagreements. Now we just, I guess, tweet about it, say something fake, like Marjorie Taylor Greene saying that they can control the weather, and you know it. And if you deny it, you're lying. And that's crazy. Why would you lie? Now, I don't know who they are, and I don't know what the weather means, because does she mean like you can go seed clouds to rain? Sure, you can seed clouds to rain. We've played with that. It's a thing. I don't know how effective it is. Some places are doing it big time. I have seen it internationally being a tactic. But the only other time I've seen somebody try to control the weather was Donald Trump with a Sharpie, which, while powerful, it's like one of the better pens. Still not enough to control the weather. Just say it. But she's convinced. She's going strong on it today on social media, that Marjorie Taylor Greene. She has literally put the map of what's been hit by the hurricane, by Helene, and then showed Republicans. It's the same map. So isn't that proof? Sorry, just had to do that for a minute. The grooming process of making people feel that there's bad others is dangerous because it diminishes critical thinking. Well, we know that, and makes people more impulsive and prone to violence. So that's why people take stuff into their own hands, right? If you can see the snippet yesterday of a Roseanne Barr interview on some ghastly two men talking podcast, it was vile what they were talking about. They're ready to bring out the guns. Let's just start the shooting. It was vulgar and disgusting. And it has no place in the United States. And there was a time that would never have been allowed to be broadcast. I know we can put our own stuff out there, just like me right now. But holy smokes, I got blocked on Twitter for using the word punch. It wasn't about a punch hole. It's about punching someone. But punch, that's like the tamest of all hitting is a punch, right? That's not a sock, not a blow, not a... Is a punch? And maybe a punch is worse than I think. But anyway, I said punch, and I got blocked on Twitter for timed out. Like the timeout pissed me off. And yet this vile crap is all over the internet, I guess, because it's audio, because it's a video. And also Elon's pro Roseanne Barr, which you sit with that for a while and think about that. Why don't you? All right, enough spilling tea. Let's get to the media's role in reinforcing this cruelty. So what we have is a situation where the media ecosystem surrounding figures like Trump plays a crucial role in amplifying and normalizing the cruelty. So two steps are happening now. We have, or maybe we're on our third. We have one, Trump and his cronies knowing the way to, I mean, Bannon is so open about this. The way you turn this country, the way you flip America. He wants to shut down America. He's part of the end of the Republic crowd. So is JD Vance, so is Peter Thiel, so is Elon Musk. Bannon is part of the end of the Republic crowd. For the longest time, Bannon's been pitching anarchy. That's like his thing. That's his jam. He loves anarchy. He thinks it's going to be great. So he's full on behind it. And Fox and Newsmax and the far right podcasts create this constant loop of fear, anger, and validation, portraying the world as filled with existential threats. It's been on the docket. The illegal docket for a long time now. The coverage, I say it on the docket because Mark Elias always says democracy is on the docket, but cruelty's been on the docket for these hats. The coverage consistently vilifies immigrants, the left, or marginalized groups, reinforcing the idea that cruelty is necessary to protect real Americans. Cruelty is so important that they cut a hole in a bathroom wall somewhere in the Midwest. I feel like it was Iowa. So it's only in the transgender bathroom because they have 5 bathroom types at their school. 5 bathroom types. They overthought this so hard. Like they should just have 1 bathroom. It's middle school. Okay, maybe they have 2 because girls do get their periods in middle school and you do need to like kind of deal with it. But putting windows in bathrooms, that's about you adults. That's not about kids. That's about you and why you being a perv and why you hating on people so much that they can't go to the bathroom now. Get the transgender kids a door and a bathroom with a door. That's it. End of problem. They're in there by themselves. It's just like going to the bathroom at home. It's so easy. But I digest. The ecosystem primes viewers emotionally and psychologically for more extreme thoughts and actions. That's probably the scariest part. Like we watched this assassination attempt of Trump. Everything about it didn't ring true, but people died. Like people died. Do we not understand this? People died at the coup. People died in the assassination attempt. And yet for Trump, it's been like a toy. He plays with it like he plays with a cat plays with a mouse, like just, but there's nothing to it. It's completely not been taken seriously. That's when we know this, the jig is up. There's something fake about it because nobody's taking it seriously, which is really weird. But that's what they want you to do. They want you to understand that there's more extreme thoughts and actions. People are acting crazy. If somebody's trying to assassinate Trump, Trump must be doing all the right things because they're so upset they want to kill him. The second guy on the golf course, I think he might have imagined he wanted to kill Trump. I'm just going to be silent for a minute while everybody takes a private moment. But he didn't do anything. He showed up at the golf course. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to be able to convict him for doing something because guns are allowed in Florida. And he may have written down that he wanted to do it, but I don't think we have thought police yet, but we might. All right, the constant exposure to this kind of media leaves viewers vulnerable to manipulation, and more importantly, it erodes the foundations of democracy by fostering division, fear, and resentment. Get it? And it really cuts down on the conversation. It just eliminates us having real discussions. So what if we shift perceptions and we move along and understand how to move beyond this cruelty? Because it's possible. It is actually possible. Helping people recognize the harm of cruelty, especially those who see it as a political tool, is not a small task. You're up against a lot of influence, social media, the candidates, ambassadors. There's a lot of people out there telling a lot of lies. It's thick. And normally the fourth estate helps us with that. And we stick to what matters because a lot of the lies are about things that don't even matter. But the deal is we can move beyond this, but it's going to be hard. It requires a thoughtful approach that connects emotionally and practically to experience and values. So you've got to make the world real to them. That's probably where I'm seeing stories about the biggest shifts in a person's thought. And I'm not saying we need to go shift a bunch of people at this point. I don't know what to do. If they're so stuck on Trump, I feel like until we can come up with a medication. I'm not sure how they're going to tune it out. It's hitting them on all their channels, right? It's coming at them on all fronts. But if you have a one-to-one experience with someone and you start off with what's most important to them, you might be able to actually convince them that they've been hijacked. So here's what you can do if you want to try to get through to someone who is caught up in this cruelty and help them. Essentially, the goal here is shifting a perspective. It's just to help. If we can even get someone, and this is really for people with relatives, I think, or people who have skin in the game, who really have someone they care about. I still haven't even gone back to my people. I'm pretty angry still at them for wanting to vote Republican. I mean, I didn't realize how angry I was until I didn't go visit them. But I mean, it like affected me. It really upset me. So it's hard. What I'm saying is I can talk about it, but I'm telling you to do it. I try to live my walk my talk, right? Walk my talk. And it's hard. So let's just accept that it is. The first is to appeal to personal impact. So see if you can connect the cruelty's consequences to their lives. Like if I've been trying to do this, which it's hard because I don't think people understand. Stephen, if you have to understand how craven Stephen Miller is. And that's the first part. Stephen Miller's face, they keep him out of it. It's very smart because a lot of us can see him and we just seeing him makes us angry, right? So they keep Stephen Miller out of this stuff. But the reality is, once you start to look at what Stephen Miller, how he talks and how cruel he is, and you start to roll back for them what's happened and how they've had to live with things that may make them feel uncomfortable, you might get them to understand that their personal situation is actually going to be impacted by the hate. Oh, I'm sorry. And my point with the Stephen Miller thing was, I feel like anybody with a Hispanic last name, and I'm looking at you, my friend Jessica Morales, who is a very attractive white woman, but isn't Morales. That's just her last name. But guess what? They're going to be at her house. If Stephen Miller's in charge, they're going to be at her house. Now, she's not going to look like what he thinks, but it's for real, guys. It's for real. We need to think craven. Next, you can focus on shared values. That's a really good one. And that's of course what I did with my friends. The shared values things is huge because I do know that they have values that are similar to mine. That's why we're friends. We have shared values. My friends my main friend is just an incredible human who does so much good in the world that's why I think it's that I'm having like cognitive dissonance over the separation of somebody who's creates so much good in the world and at the same time is going to vote for Trump. Like I can't rationalize that. But that's where I stay there. That's where I argue is right there on shared values. Promote alternative leaders. So that's on us. We need to make sure that's just the vote blue down ballot. Get involved with your local school board. I hate to say it, but they're taking over school boards. They're taking over city councils. This is on us. You, me. I've been thinking about it if I want to run for office. I'm lucky. I'm in Santa Cruz, California. I would need to move. If I wanted to make an impact, I would need to move. I don't know that I would be good at it either because I like to argue and that probably wouldn't be very productive. Good leaders know how to serve. And I think I'm better being a rabble rouser. But the point is, maybe you'd be a good leader. Think about it. It's not that hard, especially if you start off with local politics. It's just not that hard. Once people find out you're a good person, you get a few people that will back you. It's not that hard, guys. All right. Then you can channel fear constructively. So there's some good ways to channel fear. If something scares you, think of good, humane solutions. Think of something that might work, but it's actually humane. I see the Harris administration proposing proposals. So good that they're proposing proposals. Hello. With proposals for policy that actually are doing just that. They're channeling people's fear, which is we've got a border problem, right? That's the fear. But they're channeling it into things that will work, like how to move things faster, how to get adjudicated faster, how to not have all these people just waiting and waiting and waiting. That's not fun for the immigrants either. It's just not fun. So, and then finally, challenge misinformation and build trust. And that's going to take all of us. And we're going to have to agree on what is misinformation. And that's probably where we need to, on January 1st, maybe I'm calling for a National White Sage Day. Or maybe we should do it on January 20th when Kamala's taking the oath of office. And we just sage the crap out of this country. And you know what? That's the kind of fruits and nuts, airy fairy crap you can count on me for when it comes to changing America. A white sage burn-in. There you go. See, leading with my brain. Yeah, whatever. All right, sorry. I'll give you a little fun, a little Santa Cruz fun. So what's the deal? The cost of cruelty is high, and it's hurting our democracy. Why would we have a National White Sage Day? We have got to get us all back together, right? We've somehow all got to agree we're in this together, and we all care about this country, and we all care about it not being run by corrupt people, but we care about people doing their best. There's going to always be some outliers, but if we could hire, I don't know, 1,000 Pete Buttigieg's out there, I know they are, because he's just a good guy. He's just a good guy who does what he says, and he doesn't bear any ill will. We can get like 1 million Pete Buttigieg's running our country. We'll be off to the races. I'd work for him in a hot minute. That's on us. Over time, we have already suffered the ravages of cruelty. The emotional and moral exhaustion is weakening our collective fight. So this is why it's so important that you vote in this election. You vote blue everywhere you can. You encourage your friends to go out and vote. Put them in the car if you have to. And get ready for National White Sage Day. I'll give you updates on that whole thing. Thank you for listening. I'll be back tomorrow.